Hi, I'm Cautex, and in this video, I'm going to be going over a bunch of tips and tricks that I figured out while progressing on Mythic Sylvanas. Hopefully this will help you during your progression on the fight, so let's get started. For this fight, I was Arms, and I picked Night Fae as my Covenant, and then I Soulbound with Karain. Karain is really strong in this fight because despite it not being the best Soulbind for Phase 3 damage, the fact that you're going to have Wild Hunt tactics for the entirety of Phase 1 and 2, plus the value provided by First Strike, more than make up for this downside. For my Soulbind tree, I chose to take Hunt's Exhilaration for this, though there is a decent argument to be made for taking Vorkai Ambush to get an extra Endurance Conduit so that you can run Fueled by Violence. For talents, I basically took the standard single target build, but took Warbreaker instead of Collateral Damage. Also, I took Defensive Stance for this because it is extremely important and it will save your life numerous times, and there's also an extra bit of control that you'll be able to have if you take this talent. I'll talk about that in a bit. And then finally, for gear, I didn't do anything specifically for this fight. I ran the gear that I normally use, and I used the standard single target legendary of Enduring Blow. After blowing your cooldowns on the pull, when the boss hops away to spawn the first set of chains, if you charge too early, even if the boss has jumped to their final location, you won't actually charge to where they are. To get around this, I hold off on charging until right after the first set of swirls detonates. On chain set 1, if the boss hops close enough to where the chains have spawned, then I'm going to use Bladestorm and run over to them. If they're too far away to make that viable, then I will hit one of them with a Heroic Throw to proc First Strike, and then I'll just stay on the boss. Just before the first veil goes out, there's 3 things that need to happen in a pretty small time frame. You need to reapply Rend because it should be close to expiring, you need to cast Sweeping Strikes, and then you also need to use Warbreaker. Now, ideally, you should try to hit Sylvanas and the 2 Sentinels that spawned with your Warbreaker, but it is more important that it just gets used on time because delaying it will only cause it to not be lined up properly for the second set of chains. I personally don't bother putting Rend on these 2 Sentinels because they usually die too fast for it to be worthwhile. Once Veil ends, Heroic Leap to the boss and then hit Charge while you're in the air. The first GCD that I use after reaching the boss is to reapply Rend. This might not be the most optimal thing to do here, but it's just something that I have developed a habit for because it helps mitigate the probability of having to reapply Rend during an Enduring Blow proc. When dodging the swirls, if you ever get a pattern that forces you out of melee range, it's typically best to just commit to running out a bit further so that you can charge back in. For the second set of chains, while the boss is hopping around, you do not want to use charge on the boss at all. Assuming that you're not assigned to get chained, then just run to the boss and reapply Rend, and then from there, you will be charging to the chain set that you're assigned to kill. All of your cooldowns should be coming up right as this set of chains is spawning. Specifically, I use Avatar, Power Crystal, Warbreaker, and Ancient Aftershock on these chains. Do not use Sweeping Strikes on these chains, and if you did not Bladestorm for chain set 1, don't use it here either. At this point of the fight, I specifically save Soul Shape and Heroic Leap for the second round of Wailing Arrows. If I get targeted by that, then I'm going to use Soul Shape to get to the drop point as quickly as possible, and then along the way, I'm going to enter Defensive Stance, and I'm going to use Spell Reflect right before the arrow comes out and hits me. I'm then going to Heroic Leap back towards the boss after getting hit by my arrow. When the second set of Sentinels come in, assuming that I'm not fixated, I'm going to stand at max melee range of the boss positioned as close to where the Sentinels are coming from. This makes it so that when they get close, I can pop Sweeping Strikes, and then depending on how they're staggered, it's possible to get as much as 15 seconds worth of uptime on First Strike here, which, depending on your RNG, can also correspond with when you get your first Chaos Bane proc. For Veil 3, if you have stacks of Barbed Arrow and you've got at least 40 Rage, use Ignore Pain here. You'll be Bladestorming the next set of chains, so you're not losing any damage by doing this, and it also helps the healers out. For this third set of chains, I use Warbreaker and Bladestorm. Once the chains die, I then go and stack on the boss and just hit that until the call is made to hold DPS. For this third set of Sentinels, you're basically guaranteed to get fixated. Now, as long as you have Die by the Sword up and you are facing your mob, you can safely tank your Sentinel and not have to worry about it. Personally, I wait until after the first set of swirls goes out before hitting Die by the Sword and running in, as by this point, my Sentinel has usually gotten hit by our Ring of Frost and AoE stuns. Also, even though typically we don't need the actual DPS, I blow Avatar, Power Crystal, and Ancient Aftershock here, and the reason for that is you cannot hold them and use them in the intermission and then have them line up properly in Phase 2, though with that said, if you're actually assigned to cool down the boss burns in Phase 2, then it would be okay to hold on to your cooldowns and use them in the intermission. During the intermission, and once all of the chains are done and you're just dodging rives, your goal is to manage your soul fragment stacks for the next phase. Ideally, you want to hit 13 stacks right before the intermission ends and you get stunned and then teleported. The best way to build stacks is by entering or exiting defensive stance, using Spell Reflect, and casting Battle Shout. Intervene also works, but it can be risky if timed poorly. Piercing Howl does not seem to proc soul fragments anymore, so don't bother with that. If you're at low stacks, then just spam the heck out of these abilities, and then if you're at high stacks, try to give yourself just enough wiggle room to fish for a couple procs before your stacks expire, and then just hold off so that way you don't accidentally generate too many fragments and proc Chaos Bane. Also, if you're already at high stacks, don't bother hitting the boss when she goes to the middle, as it's really common to get 2 to 3 fragments during that small window of time. Now, my guild has me going to the left platform first, and while the haunting wave patterns and the specific mobs on each platform might be different, the best thing to do on those platforms is the same. So let's talk about that. You should always heroic leap onto the bridges, because doing this will make it so that it is impossible for you to accidentally go too early and then fall through the bridge. Simply wait for the targeting circle to show up, and then use Leap. Once you get to your 2 mobs, you're going to want to cast Sweeping Strikes, then use Rend, and then you're going to blow all of your cooldowns. Don't be afraid to preemptively pop Die by the Sword here. Both of the main kill targets do only physical damage, so even if you beat the tank there, or rip aggro off of them, you're totally safe as long as Die by the Sword's up. When Veil comes out, you should pop Bladestorm and then Spin to Win while getting out of the Veil. This also generally lines up with around the time that Sweeping Strikes is ending. Once your primary kill targets are dead, if there's any little ads still available, auto-attack them to pull some free rage for the boss burn. Heroic Leap once the targeting circle shows up on the bridge, and then charge the boss once you're in range. When dodging the haunting waves, it is possible to use charge rather than running back in, but I personally just found it easier and safer to run back in. For the Veil, assuming that there's no scuffed Veil circles, then you can get out of the radius with a single blink of Soul Shape. Though, with the addition of the Lockgate item in patch 9.1.5, I think it's just easier to use that, plus it gets you far enough away to let you charge back in. When the boss is casting the second Haunting Wave, turn around and intervene the farthest person that you can. From there, enter defensive stance and just keep running. You should hit Spell Reflect just before the Banshee Whale hits. This puts you in position to be ready to get to the next platform as quickly as possible, helps out with spreading out for the Banshee Whale, and also helps your healers by mitigating some of the damage. For the second platform, you're going to do basically the exact same thing you did on platform 1. Sweeping Strikes, Rend, then blow your cooldowns, and use Bladestorm when you're dodging the Veil. Something to note is that it's possible to immediately engage the ads on this platform and then tank them with Die by the Sword until your tank gets there, but for my guild, we weren't a fan of the Summoner spawning orbs right as the Veil was going out, which is what will happen if you do that. So that's why I don't. The second boss burn works really similar to the first one. However, after dodging the Veil, hit Sweeping Strikes when going back to the boss. This will help kill Vanguards that start spawning, and also is going to give you some first strike up time on the boss. When the boss goes immune, ideally just before she disappears, you're going to want to double apply Rend and use Mortal Strike. If done properly, she will still have these dots ticking on her during the downtime when Phase 3 starts. After that, just pull a bunch of rage while helping kill the little ads. Namely, this means just using Overpower and Sudden Death procs if you get one. Be mindful of your soul fragment stacks here. Ideally, you would want to get a refresh just before you get teleported. The roleplaying takes around 12 to 13 seconds, so unfortunately for me, I was screwed either way here because even if I didn't get the Chaos Bane proc, my stacks would have expired. For the one global that you get at the start of this phase, do not hit Anduin. I'll explain why later. Once this phase starts, your cooldowns should be coming up. Now, you do have a decision to make regarding these cooldowns. Option 1 is to use them immediately. Now, if you do this, then for all but the final burn, you'll be using Ancient Aftershock right before New Puddles goes out, which means that your tanks could walk her right out of your Aftershock as they're collecting puddles. Option 2 is to hold them until after you spread for the first Veil. Now, it is most optimal to do Option 2 and hold until after Veil, but the difference is fairly small. And I personally just got stuck in the muscle memory of using them immediately. So, while it's not terribly bad if you do that, there is a better way. Neither of these options will negatively impact your ability to have your cooldowns up for the final burn during Lust. In this phase, you should use Spell Reflect on every single Banshee's Fury. Also, if you get targeted by Wailing Arrow, at a bare minimum, you're going to want to enter defensive stance, and if possible, you should be using Ignore Pain too. If you're not at full health as you're making the jump before you get hit by Wailing Arrow, then use Die by the Sword here as well. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to do this on our kill, but on Platform 4, Anduin will consistently be located on the edge of his platform that is closest to you, This means that you should be able to hit him with a heroic throw if you're standing on the sigil. Doing this will proc First Strike and also your Frost Domination Shard. The optimal way to do this is that you should reapply Rend, hit Anduin with Heroic Throw, and then blow everything and go to town, and hopefully you'll kill the boss in time. I hope this information has been helpful to you, though I am sure that there are optimizations and tricks that I've missed. So if you know of anything that I didn't mention, please tell me about it in the comments. That, or you could always just tell me why my opinions are dumb. Lastly, I want to say thank you for watching this video, and subscribe for more.